decision-making process. So we're going to spend a half an hour talking about agriculture, at least a half an hour talking about healthcare, and 20 to 30 minutes talking about immigration. I think these are all three very important issues that we're trying to sort out. I want to start by talking about agriculture. Agriculture represents 60% of the economy in our district. We are the largest agriculture producing district in the entire country. And I think because of that, we need to understand some of the struggles in the agriculture. So I have a couple of guest speakers with me today, and I just want to share a little bit about what's going on in agriculture from them and ask them to speak just for 2 or 3 minutes about this. And the first person that's going to speak is Jeff Sternberger, who represents Midwest Feeder. So Jeff, if you give us a little update.
Yeah. It's up to you.
Just be fine. Can you guys hear me?
A little louder.
Pardon me?
Just a little louder.
How about that? There you go. All right. Congressman Marshall, I'd like to begin the conversation today by talking about issues that are important to the Kansas livestock industry as well as agricultural producers all over the United States. During your campaign, it was evident that on most issues involving rural Kansas and the agricultural industry, you were in agreement with mainstream ag groups. Your endorsement by the Kansas Farm Bureau and Kansas Livestock Association indicated the case. Today I would like to touch base on a few of those and other issues, hopefully to give you some feedback on what we'd like to see you champion when you go back to D.C. Obviously, responding to the disastrous wildfires across the district has to be the focus of most producers. The USDA disaster programs will be important for many producers as they work to rebuild after these damaging fires. I ask that you help ensure that the eligibility determinations as well as application and approval processes are streamlined during this time of need. Congressman, I would like to congratulate you on earning a seat on the Agriculture Committee. It's great to see a representative of Kansas 1st District, her 1st Congressional District, back on the committee. Your presence on this committee can serve our district in many ways. Recent agricultural prices are at a level that is causing financial stress to crop and livestock producers. You can help by ensuring that we continue to have reasonable safety nets for these producers through programs like crop insurance and agricultural disaster programs. As a cattle producer, I'd like to see you do all you can to reduce the regulatory burden that the Obama administration has placed on agriculture over the last 8 years. Most notably is the recently refiled GIPSA rule. This rule would if this rule is allowed to become final, it would lead packers to pay one price for all cattle and would destroy the value-based marketing programs that many producers prefer. These programs allow producers to capture more of the value of the cattle they produce. As the 2018 Farm Bill is developed, I ask that you delete the language which led to the GIPSA interim rule. Another rule is the Waters of the USA. This rule is an unneeded overreach by EPA that many feel is an invasion on property rights for rural Americans. I feel that Southwest Kansas has always supported comprehensive immigration reform. The Kansas livestock and farming industry rely on immigrant workers for a significant portion of its workforce. Agricultural industries feel that immigration reform must include not only securing our borders, but also must create a guest worker program that meets the needs of agricultural producers. It must as well have the opportunity for current employees found to be unauthorized to legally complete the immigration process. International trade is important to agriculture. We must ensure that unilateral trade agreements help level the playing field for farmers and ranchers in the United States. We are the world's best and most efficient agricultural producers and must be allowed to compete fairly in international markets. Last but not least, I would like to talk briefly about tax reform. Comprehensive tax reform must include full, permanent repeal of the federal estate tax. I know that Speaker Ryan and President Trump both include that in their plans, and Congressman, I encourage you to promote and support that as tax reform moves forward. Once again, Congressman, we appreciate your interest in our views and taking the time to come listen to it.
Thanks, Jeff. And next we have Greg Reno representing American Ag Credit. And thanks to both of you for coming.
Thank you, Congressman. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Greg Reno with American Ag Credit. I'm here representing the Rural Credit Associations in Kansas today. And as you know, Congressman, our farmers are facing some significant challenges today because of the significant drop in net farm income that they've seen. We've seen many sources quote the statistic that they've seen the greatest drop in net farm income since the Great Depression. So as you can imagine, this has put some extreme stress on the financial health of many producers. The good news is we have in our district here in Kansas some very, very financially astute managers. And they've managed to, during the good times, build a very strong balance sheet. And that balance sheet will protect them through these adverse economic times. It's that strong balance sheet as well as the will of a good lender that will help producers who have suffered losses from wildfires manage through to rebuild their operations and continue the ranching legacy that they've had for many, many years. Farm Credit is very proud to be a mission-driven lender. We serve only one market, that's agriculture. And we understand that agriculture markets have always cycled in the past, and they always will cycle in the future. So, as a responsible, mission-driven lender, we want to make sure that we have adequate capital to be able to support our members through periods of adversity. And certainly, as we enter one of these periods, that's what that capital is all about. And the associations in Kansas stand ready to deploy that capital to help our members come out the backside of this downturn. Certainly, we would echo Jeff's comments about access to foreign markets. We have tremendous capacity to produce not only in this country generally, but in this district specifically. And so having access to foreign markets to be able to move that quality product to those who need it around the world, that only aids the profitability of our members here at home. So certainly we would support that. Congressman, thanks for having us, and thanks for recognizing the importance of agriculture here in this district.
Thanks. I want to open it up to anybody's questions or comments about agriculture now. I don't mean to monopolize it. I'm here to listen. Katie has a microphone down here. If you want to come and ask a question, you're welcome to come up here and talk. Raise your hand and everyone jump up at once. Anybody else want to comment about agriculture?
Thanks very much. I have a question about immigration reform. We are a community that relies heavily on immigrants. They are invited here through worker programs, and we would really suffer if the immigration reform that goes through is not something that takes that into consideration, like having guest worker programs and a path to become legal if you are here illegally. Can you tell me how the process is going to, the reform process is going to take place, and how we can assure that the interests we have in welcoming immigrants is not trampled by the concerns other people have? It needs to be a balance, and I'm just wondering if the reform effort is one that is going to take into consideration our interests as well.
Michael, why don't you come up here? While I answer her question, I think we're going to combine immigration and agriculture here together. And I should have thought of that. It's really hard to separate one problem from another. I don't want to steal Michael's thunder. I've not heard him speak. I just met him a second ago. But it's a process, like you said. And certainly I feel immigration is a very complex problem. And it's nothing you can treat in a silo. It's a national security issue. It's a social issue. It's a school issue. It's a huge issue here in southwest Kansas where we still have 20,000 open jobs in this state here. And I think I've pretty well publicly disagreed with the president on several occasions, and this is one of where I don't totally agree with him. I certainly respect securing the border, not just a southern border, but a border around the country, but also understand that we need significant immigration reform, that we need a simpler work visa program. And you're right, it's not on the top of the president's list to take care of right now. I'm going to stop there, let Michael talk, and Michael is an attorney that's specialized quite a bit in this, and I just asked someone to give me a little bit more background on his take on this. So Michael, why don't you go ahead and take it from here for a second.
Sure, thanks. There's obviously a need for workers. You see that? There's obviously a need for workers. I talked to a number of employers, ones that have large numbers of workers, and they're constantly telling me there's nobody else to fill this job. If they were, I would.
Louder, please.
You bet.
Yes.
Let's see here. There's a number of workers, employers that are always looking for workers, and this is the constant thing I always hear are what can we do to hire American-born workers, and nobody's lining up to do this job. That's one constant thing I hear. The other thing is there is nobody else I would rather hire than this particular person. They've been with me for 10, 20 years. I trust them with my kids even, and so what can I do about that? We talk about guest worker programs, and that's a great deal, but if you've ever gone through an employee process through immigration, it's frankly a nightmare. The process to get our workers, our friends that are here, that we go to school with, we go to church with, and we know so well, it's kind of funny because I always equate myself to being the ER doctor in western Kansas for immigration doctor, and I feel like one or two doctors that in a giant western Kansas hospital, and it's hard. It's really hard. The problem with it is that we have. I can talk about cures and things like that, and I've got some ideas. But the main issue is we've got the majority, and I would say probably 60 to 70% of our immigrants here that don't have lawful status have got the equivalent of a terminal illness. And the issue comes up as soon as they're the working age, they've got to fill out an I-9. And the minute they fill out the I-9 and they don't really have lawful status, it's over. Most of the time, if they say they're a citizen, lifetime penalty, no forgiveness ever. Even if they've been here since 1 year old, then yeah, it's a lie. But so the other end is if they're not saying they're a citizen, they're saying they're a legal permanent resident. If they say that, if they don't have a certain family member that would face a big level of hardship, lifetime penalty. So we've got some issues that have to be resolved, and I was going to talk about that in a minute, but I'll hold off and let Ag talk some more.
No, that's okay. Go ahead and finish your thoughts on immigration.
Okay. There are some very key critical rules that really go over the whole gamut of this huge immigration law part of it. And there's really, I've been doing this for 10 years. I've practiced in the Rio Grande Valley for a couple years. I've seen the issues I've gone from, had clients all the way from Hawaii to the East Coast to the West Coast, in 30 different countries here in Dodge City area alone, since 2009 that I've been here. And the issues are